and the awakening to the sound, the awakening. That's what we're talking about with this idea of the tender reed, the idea of awakening through being flexible, being open, being tender-hearted, and knowing that being flexible, being vulnerable, tender-hearted does not make us weak. In fact, I contend that in that arena we find a different kind of strength. Um, yeah, that was. Oh, I'm just touched. That was wonderful. The tender reed. When I first thought about this, I thought about that song. Everybody, love like the river drowns the tender reed, all that stuff, and you know, yeah. I mean, love can do that. Love can make you feel like you're drowning. It possibly can, but the real story is that love opens us up, and love allows us to be flexible, and love is this space where vulnerability is met with a sweet embrace, a kindness, and a compassion when love is truly there in that full extent. And the other thing about the reed that struck me is how it makes music. You dry it out, you put some holes in it, you've got a lovely sounding flute. You turn it into, I wanted to play the saxophone. I wanted to play saxophone so bad in school. And that day that they were giving out the saxophones, because I went to public school in Detroit where they gave you the instruments, back in the day. We asked, when you walk to school uphill both directions, home and back, and in the snow. Did you go barefooted? I had holes in my shoes. Yeah. And so the day I got there, they had given out all the saxes, and saxes were cool. I really wanted to play saxophone. I ended up playing a trumpet. And the teacher was he felt for me. He says, I know you want to play the sax. We didn't have enough saxes, but I'll put you in charge of the music room. So I got to give out all the instruments. As a result of that, I got to play the oboe, the clarinet, the saxophone, all the woodwind instruments. And how neat it is that with the reed, in order to get it to make sound, it has to be made flexible and pliable. You have to get it wet in order to make it really work well. And so this whole idea of the tender reed is really how to make sweet music, how to make your life sweet music by being tender, soft, sweet, and open and vulnerable, and getting the power in that. I've talked about the palm tree before. The palm tree, a lot of trees have rings this way, ring, 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 ring. But the palm tree's rings go like this in these little loops. So when the wind blows, they can bend really well and then bounce right back. That's why they can stand up against the onslaught of the hurricane that's on the beach so often, you see. And so if we can be like that and be flexible like that, or like those new tents at REI that I saw where they just, boom, and the fiberglass, it pops back up. Those are amazing. We have that kind of resilience and ability to be that kind of flexible in our lives if we could just open ourselves up and not be afraid of standing there in the wind and letting it go and then coming right back, not being too attached. Yeah, it's a wink, wink. You have to ask Patrick about it later. He may tell you. Brene Brown spends a lot of time talking about this vulnerability and shame and stuff in her book, Daring Greatly. She says, our willingness to own and engage with our vulnerability determines the depth of our courage and the clarity of our purpose. Now, whoa, not yet. That's okay. No, not that one either. Go the other way. Don't let me have to overrule you here. No. They showed me how to use this. Danger! But this idea of the courage to go and be vulnerable, because if we can do that, we can open up to our clarity of purpose. And what is that? It is to reveal the divine that is within us. You see, we all have, I talk about this all the time, we have this resplendent good, this urge within us to create something unique and special, an ultimate urge, ultimate resplendent good that emerges through our understanding of what our clarity and purpose is. And when we become fresh enough, flexible enough, tender enough to fight against all the people that say, no, I can't, no, I shouldn't, that, to be willing to go ahead and tap this thing, even though I didn't know what I was doing, to be able to get into that kind of space allows you to get into that clarity of your purpose and to express that purpose, to reveal the divine that is waiting within you to be exposed. Now, most of us here, because we're here and we're religious scientists, we've already done that. I give you the credit. But if you'd like to do even more of it, just get a little more vulnerable. Dig a little bit deeper. Have the courage to go that much further. And here's the next part of it. Now, boom. See, to the level to which we protect ourselves from being vulnerable, we can protect ourselves from it. We say, oh, I'm not going to do that. I'm tough, Shake it off, like the kid last week that fell down, and I was so tempted to tell him, get up, shake it off, But that's not it. If it hurts, say, ooh, it's all right. But if we want to protect ourselves from our vulnerability, it's a measure of our fear and our disconnection. Our disconnection to what? Our disconnection to spirit. You see, fear blocks us from that connection. And the really interesting thing is there's no need to be blocked from it because Spirit has this wonderful grace about it. We have this thing called the law that we study here in the science of mind. The law is actually quite vulnerable when you think about it because the law doesn't ask. It just says, okay, I'll give you that. It gives you what you're thinking. And if you make a mistake, the law is still there with its grace to allow you to think again and to come back one more time. That's the whole idea behind sin. Archery term. Boom, missed the target. That's one sin. How do you fix that? You just aim better next time. Boom. Hit the target right on. You get the points, you see. So we can always overcome because the law is this accepting, unquestioning thing that we have available to us to allow us to express, to allow us to do what Browning says, that spark that we cannot desecrate, that spark of divinity within us. Nothing we can do can take that away from us. So as a result of that, being a little vulnerable, being a little flexible in our lives is not going to be a bad thing. In Isaiah, a lovely book of the Bible. You guys know about the Bible? I'm learning. In Isaiah it says, no crushed reed will he break, and no smoldering wick will he extinguish. So when you are in that space of trying something different, if you open yourself up and have the courage to be vulnerable and it doesn't work out, you feel a little crushed, don't worry about it. Spirit is still there. It's not going to break you. It's going to let you do it again. Even if you feel like your light is dimmed and it's just smoldering, that's okay. It will not be extinguished. You will still have the opportunity to do it again. That's the great thing about the sun coming up. It's another day. Try it again. So it requires that we let go of our doubts, we let go of our worry, we let go of our fears, we let go of the things that we condemn, including ourselves, and the specialness about ourselves. We let that go, and we try, and we keep trying. There was this farmer, and he was plowing his field, and every year he'd plow his field, there was this rock in his field, and he would try to plow around it, and he'd hit it and break the plow, and he'd hit it and he'd break the plow, and he'd try it, and one year he said, I'm just tired of this. He went to the shed, and he goes into the shed, and he's going to get some dynamite, and he goes back out to his field because he's going to blow up this rock because it's breaking his plowshares, and he's thinking, this is a big deal. So he goes to put some dynamite under the rock, and he takes a little wedge thing to lift up a little bit of space, and he realizes it's like this thin. Just boom. He was able to lift the rock and move it out of the way. Right? How interesting that sometimes these obstacles, these things that we're protecting ourselves from, these things that we think are going to crush us are really just little thin deals. But if we can face it and let go of the worry and the fear about it and just go about and lift it up, boom, it's out of the way, and we're ready to go. You see? Ernest Holmes talks about this. He says, we should constantly vitalize our faith by the knowledge that the eternal is incarnated through each one of us and goes forth anew into creation through us. You see, every day, there is this spirit that we're a part of that is incarnated within us. And it allows us the opportunity to go newly into our life each and every day and create something special and something new and something fresh. To go and remove the rock obstacles in our lives and to reveal the fertile soil that is beneath that's ready to burst forth our newest and most recent creation. And it's always there, never going away. But it requires that we give up this fear and this worry. And in the society that we live in today, it's just overwhelming. Everywhere we look, they're selling fear and giving us something to worry about. And it's hard to let that go. We're bombarded with these ideas. And it's hard to let go of the things about ourselves sometimes. There was this famous cartoonist was at a party, and he, he was just trying to have a good time at the party. But they decided, people there says, "Come on, draw pictures of us." And he finally gave in. And he started drawing pictures of people at the party. And a really interesting thing happened. Other people at the party were able to recognize the faces of other people in the cartoons, but they weren't able to recognize their own faces. Think about that. Think about how often we're like, so-and-so, such and such, the neighbor down the street. We can recognize everybody else's stuff, but our own stuff? No. Our own cartoons? No. But if we can give up the worry about who we are and what we're all about, then we might be on our way to getting to that flexible, vulnerable space of doing something new and different in our lives. But it's magnetic, the fear, the worry. It's magnetic. It's like it's holding on to us. It grabs our attention. Our juices get to flowing. And why not? The brain is doing it. We've been talking about it in our Saturday class. The hypothalamus and the pituitary gland and the adrenal glands, they're like pushers. They are. They're little drug pushers standing on a corner of your brain, pumping out stress chemicals like crazy. And then you get addicted to that stuff. Your brain gets addicted to the stress chemicals. And so you just love worrying because it makes you feel alive because there's stuff pumping through. Your heart's beating all heavy. Well, you know what? Your heart could beat just as heavy. You can feel just as alive by riding 100 miles a week. Or 5. Start slow. Move yourself into it. Remember, every day, grace, anew, right? And back to the fear and the worry. I get it. Sometimes the problems just seem unbearable. It just seems overwhelming. Again, we go to Anthony DeMello this time, and this is what he says. He says, what is unbearable is what you think is going to happen in 5 hours or 5 days. It's what you think is going to happen. Those words you keep saying in your head. You've heard it before, you'll hear it again. Change your thinking, change your life. We know this. We come here every week. We know this stuff, yet we fall back. Why? Because of those darn pushers dropping them chemicals in our brains, for letting us forget that it's not even there. It's not even there, the stuff that's unbearable. Tomorrow will handle itself. Think about this. Go back in time. Take yourself back like 6 months or a year and think about a problem you were facing 6 months or a year ago and how overwhelming it felt. I mean, look at our miracle sitting right here. Look at Tony. When he was thinking about that time and was looking for that transplant, oh my God, where are we going to get it? We don't know. Boom, boom, boom. Now, it's Mr. Cool. Comes in, got his hat. Right? Because stuff will show up to handle the situation that our brain is spending all this time telling us it's not going to work out and it's unbearable. When the time comes, that's what the universe is talking about. It will conspire for your good. But we have to hold ourselves in the knowledge of that good and stay in that place. Spend more time thinking about what's good in our lives than we spend thinking about what's not good in our lives. And then we inform the universe to bring about the miracle experience into our lives. And maybe it's not as big a miracle as your life being given back to you. Maybe it's just a miracle big enough to say, did I really ride 60 miles this week? But that's a wonderful thing just the same. Dr. Holmes says, we shall often need to know that the truth which we announce is superior to the condition we are to change. The truth which we announce is superior to the condition we are to change. There is a truth within us. There is an undying truth, that spark that cannot be denied, that urge within us that's dying to break forth, that will not go away. Announce your day and declare that truth on a regular basis, and it starts to outpicture as your life. It just can't happen any other way. But the how, the how is to stay focused. I'm reading this book. Actually, I'm not reading it. It's reading it to me. I love Audible. My 30-minute drive to see me is getting shorter all the time because I'm listening to Trevor Noah. He's got this book called Born a Crime. It should be called Born a Criminal because he was like a bad kid growing up. And one of the things he did, he was playing with matches and a magnifying glass with some friends in a shed somewhere in South Africa, and he burned down somebody's house. I was like, what? Yeah. But the story here about the magnifying glass is a powerful one for us to think about. If you were to take some dry newspapers and a magnifying glass on a bright sunny day, and you hold the magnifying glass over the newspapers and you're just like doing like that, nothing's ever going to happen. But if you hold it still, they will catch fire. Hopefully not burn down a house, but they will catch fire. And that's our thoughts. That's how our thoughts work. Are we wishy-washy, waving all over with our thoughts, or are they focused so that the bright light of Spirit can light a fire in our lives? How are you working your thoughts? How are you focusing on these conditions that we announce through truth that we can change? Dr. Holmes goes on to say, when the inner consciousness agrees with truth, when we are in alignment, then, and not until then, a demonstration takes place. If you have not demonstrated the good in your life that you're looking for, read it again. Here you go. Who said that? I did. When the inner consciousness agrees with truth, then, and not until then, and not until thing, you know what? I think it's called auto-incorrect. Because it will correct it, but incorrectly. Anyway, and not until then, a demonstration takes place. We need to stay with the treatments. You know, sometimes we get in this teaching and we think, oh, I just pray it and so it is and it's done. No, it's a process. And there are times, that's back to the grace thing I was talking about before, back to the sin and making a mistake. It's a process, and we keep doing it and speaking the truth over and over. That's why we do affirmations. That's why we do spiritual practice. I hope that's why you come back every week, because what we need to do is to practice this until it becomes just a part of our being. And then these demonstrations start taking place in our lives. So it begins with staying open, remaining flexible, trusting Spirit that's not only in you, but is operating as you. There's a guidebook for ministers, and it has all these different processes and services and weddings and funerals and stuff like that in it. And one of the things it has in it is an installation script. And in the installation script it says, may you welcome your own vulnerability as the ground where healing and truth join, and may integrity of soul be your first ideal, the source that will guide and bless your ministry. Now that's what it says to the ministerial script, but what it dawns on me is that each and every one of us has a ministry. There's all of us have something that we're doing that serves humanity, that lifts up the world. That's really our next impulsion. You know, the science of mind was wonderful when Dr. Holmes created it back in the early part of the 20th century, when people needed to have that rugged individualist and they were trying to find a better way for themselves individually. We've done really well as a society to lift the tide for society as a whole, but how we work as a community is still, there's some work to be done there. There's some unifying that still needs to take place. And what you do in your life, that thing that you do that's special, is your own special ministry. And how are you handling your ministry? Are you in that space of vulnerability? And are you finding yourself healing through the truth that you know? And is that lifting up your soul? Because if you're living from that space of integrity, that your first ideal, you will be guided and you will be blessed in the service that you do. We are here called to be of service to the world, not just to our families, not just to our friends, but to humanity as a whole. And I think that one of the keys to being of service is being vulnerable, being open, being flexible, being ready to make music, to be the tender reed. And so it is. Yeah. So now you get the affirmation comes, right? Here we go. Oh, hey, I got an idea. Let's all stand up. Let's all stand up. It just came to me. All right, so on this word, what are we going to do? Yeah, exactly. All right, here we go. Though I bend, I do not break, for the power of my word keeps me aligned with that which is strong and true. There you go. All right, let's do some prayers. You got it? Uh-oh. John's not here, but that's okay. I'll do it anyway. I see it. You did that on purpose? Let it go. Be flexible. Stay open. All these moments to practice when I'm preaching. Grace. It's a process. No, okay, I'll be flexible. I'll stay open. All right. Here we go. Now, if you haven't been here before, what we've been doing lately as a group in our prayer time is we allow ourselves to go into that space for a moment to recognize what we may want or desire in a condition of our life to be changed, or the condition in the life of someone that we know that we want to be changed, and we pray as a collective. So at this time, I open up the floor to anyone and everyone to just pouring out the names and the conditions that we want to pray for this morning. Here we go. Patricia. Feeling the call of Spirit in this moment, I recognize that each and every one of us is an expression of the only thing that is, and that what is operating through us is a loving presence that outpictures in the world through law. And it is this combination of Spirit's intelligence and power, of its wisdom and its energy, of its substance and supply, that becomes the good in our lives through the power of our spoken word. See, our word is the action of God made manifest in life itself. And so by speaking our word from the floor this morning, we have allowed a new idea to be birthed into creation. And now we anchor that birthing by this shared word spoken right now. We know that the law of life outpictures as good, harmony, right action, divine guidance, infinite substance, right employment, perfect home, healing relationships, full health, prosperity and abundance, and so much more. And in each and every life, there is enough and more than enough so that we can step into our moment of service to the world. So I anchor in this truth and accept the word spoken by each and every one here, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to share it with the law and to release it there too, with a resounding yes. And so it is.